Cashflow. Let's have a look at how to work with the cash flow in Caflou. Let's look at some settings, some of the basics. If you're starting with the cash flow in Caflou, you want to look into the settings, and you want to make sure that your primary currency is set up right. There's always one currency that everything is displayed in, like Euro, USD, British Pound, and if you use other currencies, the income expenses are always recalculated towards the major currency. You can change it anytime. It always gets recalculated using exchange rates. So this is not set in stone, but it's always better to have one primary currency and work in it. Then nobody who comes to Caflou usually starts with a zero balance. So if you want to set up your starting balance, so some kind of level of cash that you have in your hand, use it here. Add a number and everything gets kind of leveled up or down to the number you use here. It can be negative also, it's up to you. We'll come to tracking value-added tax later. To make it more simple, but we'll have another video to talk about this. Then, anytime you're adding an income or expense, you can add a category to that payment. It's always beneficial because you can break down your cash flow by categories, and you can see which category is bringing money, which category is costing you money, and you can filter by category. So at the start, you have some basic categories. You can always modify them, and you can add your own categories, or you can delete the old one. So make sure you have your categories there. You can always add a category when adding an income or expense. So what you add here, it's not all you have. You can always add more. Categories, the basic ones are like rent, taxes, salaries, operations, but anything you can think about. Each of you has a different kind of categorization of your cash flow, so make sure it's simple enough for you to understand, but it's aligned with how you think about your cash. Another kind of categorization which you have at hand is sources. Sources can, I'll show you so you see it visually. Anytime you're adding an income or expense, you have an allocation tab, and you can pick your category and you can pick your source. If you go back to settings, sources, consider it as another level of categorization that you have. It can be anything. The most commonly used attributes, values are when companies want to differentiate between department in their company, like marketing, sales, operations. Also, some companies want to differentiate between bank accounts. If you have different bank accounts, each income expense can be allocated to another account. So then you see a breakdown of your cash flow by accounts. It can be income or expense centers in your company. So anything like that can be. Some companies or some users have multiple companies that they want to track in one cash flow. That can be it. You can have 2, 3, 4 companies of yours in here if you want to track it like that. So that's the basic. Starting with the starting balance, picking the right currency, having your categories and sources, and then you can go to add income and expenses. Before we start adding income and expenses, we'll talk about kind of the two basic screens that you have for your needs in Caflou. You have graph and you have a table view. The graph is what it says. It's a graphical representation of your cash flow. We will have another video about kind of how to understand the graph, but for now you have kind of the main cash flow screen, the graph, where you have the graphical representation. Here you can look at cash flow in a week view, in a daily view, and in a monthly view. You can switch anytime you want. Also in each view you can play with the date range, so you see exactly the kind of range you want. You can look at the previous year and you'll see what you need. In this overview you can always use filters. You can filter by multiple things, categories, sources, by a company. So you see cash flow only focused on the filter you're using. So you may have a look at specific companies. If they're giving you more money, if they're costing you money, you can search by filter or filter by projects, tasks, or tags. Everything you see here on the kind of main cash flow screen then gets filtered by that filter, and the data is displayed only related to the filter. So you see the graph related to company supplier Peter, the data here, the categories in here, or kind of the tables in here. You can always save your filters for later. Then you will have it ready. For the next time, and just by one click you will. I'll show you. And then you have it in here. So if I refresh the screen and click Peter, you get data for Peter by one click. You can have as many filters as you need saved up. Okay, below the graph you have some data. You have your cash flow, the expected balance, you have the cash that you have in hand, which is already paid, and we'll talk about it in the other video about what this means and how to work with the graph. Down here you actually can break it down by expenses and income and the sum, whether you're in minus or plus. And down below you can actually look at data from different angles, like look at your categories or look at the companies, be it your customers or suppliers. Then we move to the table view, and it's a view of all income expenses one by one in a table overview. Again, you can play with filters. You can filter by name, dates, companies, projects, different statuses. If you don't see the attribute you want to filter by, click here and you may find it there, like categories or sources. Again, you can save your filter, and then by one click you get what you need. When we go back to the overview, you can always export the table into PDF, Excel, CSV file, and you can import. Almost anything can be imported into Caflou, and income expenses also. So if you want to import, just click here. You have some help here, or come back to us and we'll help you with importing your historical data. You can also choose what you want to look at in the table. You can pick your columns, and then the application shows you what you're looking for. When we go back to the filter, there's one important thing to mention. If you work with recurring income and expenses, we'll get to that a bit later. We by default don't show the future planned events, income expenses. So if you want to, you see this is a rent which already has happened, took place. But if you want to look into the future and look at the future payments, select date range and click scheduled, and then you will see the planned objects And again, you can apply other filters. Also, in the table view, whatever you search for, whatever you have filtered out, gets also totaled down below. So you have a table where you see the sums of how much is planned in that filtered kind of data set, how much has been already paid. Okay, then let's go to creating an income or expense. The basic is basic. You name it, you add an amount, you mark a date, you select a date when the payment is supposed to be paid. You can pick a currency. If it's a different currency than your primary cash flow currency, it gives you an exchange rate, which is taken from European Central Bank, but you can always modify it manually to anything you need. Also, each income expense can be categorized. So you add a category, you can add a source, we talked about it. You can add a company which either you are paid by or you're paying to. And you can go to a project level or even a task level. So then if you want to see how much each project or task is costing you money, or look at a project cash flow, you can, but you don't have to. You can stay on the company level or not even that. So that's the simple stuff. Most of you will have recurring objects, recurring expenses or income. Say you're a marketing agency and your customer is paying you the same amount every month, or you pay rent and the rent is the same every month. Then you want to use the recurrence tab, and it's actually quite simple. Also, you click this. Here you select the frequency, how often it should repeat. So daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. It can be even smarter. So if you pay a rent or you're getting paid only every 2 or 3 months, you just do this. And what you get is monthly frequency, but it repeats only every 3 months. It depends what you picked here, but if you select months, then you are picking a day of months. So if it starts with the 15th of June, and down here you see kind of the series of payments. You can also select if the series is finished, has an end, or it has no end. You can select that it repeats 5 times, or you can select that it ends, say, after a couple months. Oh, gee. I need to pick more. Okay. And it's always good to check that what you see here, the planned recurrence, the planned dates, that it corresponds with what you are expecting. Okay, so that's it. And if I new income, I just save it. And what you get is, you see there's an income which you see $1,000 associated to a company, Super Peter, project order number 94, and a task. And if I want to see the future occurrences, the planned ones, I just go here, click scheduled, and I see the future occurrences. Also, when you work with the recurring objects, recurring income expenses, and you want to change anything, you can either change the already kind of the income expense which has been already created. So you can change amount, you can change the status by, say, you mark it as paid. The system will ask you whether you want to change just this one object, or if you want to change the whole row, the series. I'll change just this one. And if you want to play with the whole series, you always go here to, if you click this, you'll see the templates. Here's the new income templates. You see that this is the next repetition date expected. And if you want to change the whole series, you come here, say you get paid more. You can change even the allocation, categories, tags, and again, if you you select if you want to what you want to change, save, and you see from future it is already lifted up to 1500. Okay, so that's the basic of how to play with, how to work with Cashflow. And the income, look at the companies. It was supplier Peter. It's not actually visible here because there's other numbers, but these were the basics how to work with Cashflow. So you start with the settings. You learn how to work with the views, monthly, weekly, daily, how to change the date range, that you can always filter out the data to whatever you need, to categories, companies, tags. You can look at the data in a kind of time sequence. You can play with the different views here. You can look at companies, you can look at categories, you can look at sources, etc. You can go to the table view, where you see each income and expense one by one in a table view. In here you can always filter the view to what you need. You can only look at income, at paid, at overdue, and you get what you're looking at. You can always save the filter for future, and then you have it here. With just one click you run it. If you're using recurring objects, recurring income expenses, here you modify the whole series. And that's about it. If you have any questions, come back to us, send us a message via the chat, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you very much, and bye.